Hi everyone, welcome to the Neural AI podcast, where we'll be delving into AI and its various subdomains. We'll be exploring an array of topics like generative AI, recommender systems, deep learning, and reinforcement learning. We'll explore how this intersects with various industries like retail and healthcare, and we'll do this by chatting to thought leaders in the industry who share their personal journeys of perseverance, use cases, and technical challenges. Besides this, we'll also have some fun along the way, discussing future predictions. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm joined today by Vidhi Chugh, AI futurist, and I believe recent author of an ethics course on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. Today we're going to discuss some ethics and governance, kind of your background and some recent announcements by the White House to announce chief AI officers across federal agencies. So yeah, keen to get your thoughts on that. But I guess yeah, so people listening can understand. You want to just kind of talk people through what you do and your background?
Absolutely. So I am an AI strategist, and AI strategy also since last couple of years is the new terminology or the new role I would say that has come to the surface. And I'll just give a background of how this role came into being. I started as a typical data person. I think anybody who is doing core AI today has been a data person in the roots, which means that I've seen data day in, day out. And you can say that I've been breathing data to the level that I could start seeing patterns in data. And I understood that, you know, there has to be more to it, right? I can't just be working on data, all the manual work for which we today, standing now a decade later, say that, oh, AI should be able to do all that mundane task, right? Those mundane tasks I've done in my early days of career. And I was like, no, no way I can keep doing this. There has to be a better way of doing this because I'm a person who cannot do repetition. Repetition is machine's task, right? I am a human and I have a brain power. I need to be doing something which I am good at, and I need to
Mm,
excel in this, improve in this. But just doing mundane same Excel work on day in day out basis is not me. So when I figured that my the limitations of my personality is actually opening the doors for me. I was like, I'll figure something out. And then I became a finance person. I did actually build models in finance for quite some time. And I realized again, the same problem is hitting. Again, I'm
mm,
seeing data being made to use. And these are the credit risk models I'm working on. Now, two data points are enough for me to know that technology must be, doing it already. So I started
mm,
looking at those algorithmic models. AI was still buzzword that time. And I was like, what is it that people are talking about? There are patterns they say about AI, and actually there are patterns in the work that I do. Then what is it that is stopping me? Anytime that I hit a problem, I say that what is it that is stopping me to not try this? I'm a person who tries, fails, learns, and then nail it to the level. So that's
yeah.
when I kind of reverse engineered my way, see that this is a problem being currently solved with a human expert, and let me see how algorithms can do that. Took it in a reverse engineer manner, dissected the algorithms, dissected the data, understood the assumptions of algorithms, why and why not a particular model cannot work on certain problem statement. So I grew the ladder like that. And when I became a good AI developer, I realized that communication is a gap. I know the problem. I know how a business problem is, and I know the AI solution for this. Then why nobody is, still able to understand? Because AI is a thing that needs to be communicated in a certain manner. And then I became so proficient in communicating the results of AI, and then why and why not of AI, what makes a good case of AI. Then, communication became a part of it. And, I still
Mm,
remember in early days, I was told in one of the companies that I joined that, most of our AI initiatives are not working with you. Can you tell us what we are doing wrong? And I was
mm,
like, sure, I can tell you because I've seen a lot of failures. I know that what is not doing right. And I told them that the start of our opportunity discovery phase, this is a very
mm,
important term, not many people give a emphasis on this, is the way you define and discover the opportunity for business problems to be solved through AI. If you're doing that bit wrong, everything that comes downstream to is wrong, right? So that's what I told them, that we need to find the right business problems to solve through AI. And that gave
yeah.
certain, they told me, yeah, okay, can you tell us how to do that if you think you're the smartest person in the room, which I'm not, because I'm learning from people. And I'm like, okay, let me tell you, I had a certain criteria and frameworks built by then, because I've been part of companies going through digital transformation, which I call as AI transformation now. That came into having those frameworks, systems, processes, which I started calling as AI strategy. So that's how I
Mm.
became an AI strategist, and it ties back to some of the important points that you brought about, announcements coming from White House. I'll talk about more on that in detail, but yeah, that's been my
Sure.
journey.
Yes, super insightful. And just to unpack a few things there, you touched on kind of the communication piece and then the discovery phase. What would you say is the key part to discovering the solution? Because I think a lot of people seem to think the answer is kind of generative AI at the moment, but it potentially might not be. And yeah, where could the discovery phase help with that?
Yeah, so I have a lot of frameworks on which I work,
Mm.
and that and framework is, I think, a very cliched way of putting it, but I would say it's a more of a checklist which keeps on evolving. I have a certain way of viewing the problem. So like I mentioned, I was initially a finance person, and the more I thought maybe I can keep doing AI in finance. Why do I need to study different domains?
Yeah.
Had I not taken that decision, I would not have had that bent of mind of learning how different businesses work. I've worked across the industries. You call it any industry you name, and I've worked in that. And that helps you build a certain muscle to see that, am I being business centric? Am I being customer centric, or I'm being technology centric? Right. So that's the big,
Mm.
and people don't really, kind of internalize that. Every time I go and talk and solve a problem, and I talk to executives, you won't believe majority part of my discussion with them goes into talking about what your business is about, what your business strategy is about, what are you looking forward in your business 3 years down the line. Earlier, I used to talk about a little longer frame, but now I think having a visibility on business mindset of next 3 years is good enough for me to take the certain decisions. And what your business moat is, what do you think is your competitive advantage, where do you think you are lacking? Because a business executive can give me the most information, and I can enable them in turn about how technology can be an enabler for them, which is generally people, like you're mentioning, oh, generative AI, and there are a lot of things, and people have reached out to me saying that how we can monetize that. And I'm like, I
Mm.
can't tell you that until you tell me what exactly a business is about, because the question has to be more on to them than to me as a technologist, right? And I can tell you AI is a fit for that problem or not. And that becomes, there's, like I spoke about frameworks, so I should at least give a, sneak peek of what frameworks mean. So anything that you find AI as a, good use case, you need to see the problem needs to have a pattern, which is repeating
Mm.
at scale. So it has to
Mm.
have a certain level of repetition, because that's where my work in early days was having a lot of repetitive work, and it was having pattern because AI has to learn from that, right? And the ability to calculate the ROI. It's a very non-trivial thing, return on investments that go into this. These are the parameters. So I have a parameter based approach that, are you being technology first or business first? What is your competition doing about? Are you, really having that innovative mindset, because you are not thinking just inside the box and saying fitting technology onto problems, but coming from customer mindset. And then you have that clarity of what you want to achieve with AI. What metrics are you really trying, the needle you're trying to move around, right? These are some of a big pile of things that I create a whole charter about before telling companies about what lies in their opportunity box.
Yeah, super helpful. And I think one thing that come across there is just the importance of having a process, kind of starting with the end in mind, and using AI to solve business problems, not creating problems with AI, as we sometimes see.
This really happens
Um,
actually, Chris, that we use AI to solve certain problems only to realize AI comes with its own set of problems.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people get FOMO, don't they? Fear of missing out. Everyone wants the shiny piece in the box at the moment with generative AI. So cool. And I think you've had a great career in the sense that you come from academia, then you've gone into a technical industry role, into leadership, and now focusing on governance. I think that's quite a unique blend. What have been kind of the key lessons that you've learned?
I think one of the biggest lesson that I've learned is not taking no as an answer, and then having that visionary mindset. I think the moment you're able to little look forward beyond what is immediately right in front of you, right? The moment I started talking about ethics, a lot of people came and told me, because that was the time I was writing work into patents, which was with US Patent Office, right? And I was discussing with one of my colleagues, and they were like, you are good at coding and all those things, why do you not just continue the work you are doing, and you don't need to think about it, because somebody else would look after it. That
Mm.
quote statement of somebody else will look after it kind of gave me a thought that okay, who would be that person, right? If everybody is thinking in the same manner, then there is no contrarian view. There is nobody who is challenging the current ways that we are building something, right? So that's how I have developed myself as an AI person, that I invite contrarian views. I see what is it that the people are talking about, and not everyone is paying attention. I started my AI ethics journey at that time, and cut short to now, I am helping organizations understand that governing AI is the only way to succeed in AI journey. This whole AI transformative landscape that we all are in, right? Building solutions, everyone knows. Coding, for that you have code assistants, right? Everything. But for ethics, you don't have any AI assistant for now, right? So that's how you
Mm,
kind of build a career which first resonates with what kind of person you are, and is also something that gives you a visionary view about, do I see myself doing this thing 5 years, 10 years down the line, right? So that way I think that I choose the right path, because it's a layer, it's a layer, a governance layer, which is around your whole AI solution, which if you don't have
mm.
the right person to nail it for you, you just simply can't put your product into the market, right? So that's the lesson that I've learned, that if people tell you no, just take it as a pinch of salt, and analyze and see for yourself that uh you can't limit yourself in the world of AI.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're moving away from kind of technical aspects into more kind of philosophy and ethics. And I think, do you think they should be kind of a standardized framework for ethics, or it should be case by case, fit for each organization? I guess we'll probably land somewhere in the middle. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question, Chris, because I've been asked this question, and okay, with EU AI Act, you have a blueprint of how you should approach ethics and in AI, and the whole regulatory landscape itself is evolving, which means that there are a lot of best practices, the industrial way of doing AI in a right way. Having said that, I follow a particular principle which calls as adopt and adapt, which means that I adopt industry standards. I am day to day updated about how we as an industry is handling this as a problem, because I don't think ethics and governance is something that only one person or one team or one organization, one country can handle on its own, right? It's something that is transcending boundaries. AI, if you talk about any model that's developed somewhere out there in the world, is still yielding predictions or recommendations that are coming on my feed, is still an AI product, right? So I think it's beyond one person. It involves a lot of folks. And first of all, that also kind of gives the mindset, who decides what is right or not, right? The definition of right
Yeah.
is very ambiguous. And that's when
Mm,
I say that I take everything, like I took AI by technology, whatever industry says, to a particular business, and I understood the business and how AI should be put on that. Similarly, for ethics, I take it from industry and then put it very specific to the business, that, how that, so every business has a certain way of understanding the risk that AI brings onto them, right? And how do you see that? Are you able to assume those risks, or you're going to use AI just because you understand that the delta additional benefit that AI is going to bring to you is far more than the risk that introduces into the society, right?
yeah.
Benefits have to outweigh the risk that it comes in the society. For example, if I look for some version of pasta, even if I don't eat it, right? Assume that I need
Yeah.
pasta, and I look around on my system and I say that, good pasta shops near me. How would it give me that information, right? It has to take certain data away from my system and give me that kind of things. Now, the convenience with which I'm being given those set of recommendations, which means information is available to me at a fingertip, it's a wow
Mm,
factor, right? Like I did not need to kind of search on my own multiple links, understand, look at ratings, and then the distance, and then a lot of other things, right? But it's kind of getting delivered to me. But some information is going away from my system. There are some control, right, in terms of my geography or my preferences or all those things. So we need to continuously make a trade-off and live with the fact that when I am asking for certain things, what are the trade-offs I'm making in that? So that's benefits outweighing risk is a particular thing that organizations need to be aware of while they
mm.
adopt and adapt AI ethics into their organization.
Yep, I understand. I think that segues nicely into the role as a chief AI officer, and having someone that understands the risks and the benefits, as you say. Um, yeah, what do you think the role of this person should be?
Yeah, ironically, Chris, for last several years, um, I've been talking about all the things. I'll tell you what those are. And since this White House announcement of having chief AI officer for every agency, this news came out. I'm seeing, almost every day, some or the other profile or the person being introduced as chief AI officer. And I'll tell you, first of all, those dimensions that I've been working on and how that ties to a chief AI officer. So in my eyes, a chief AI officer is someone who is a person wearing multiple hats. And
Mm.
even if I'm able to kind of consolidate in call today, there is still a lot more that the person has to do on the ground. The very first being, and I'll still do the job of compiling it, the person has to have an eye for identifying the opportunity, which I said is ideas are many, right? There are many ideas, but then you need to have that lens of which ideas should I prioritize, because time is limited, execution has to happen, and you need to prove the impact, right? So which ideas are worth picking up in terms of, first, it should be customer focused, and which means that it has to help business. Customer is business.
Mm.
If you're doing customer oriented work, you're getting business for yourself, right? So business and customer has to be put at the forefront. And then the delta percentage, I always talk about AI is in terms of percentage, right? If today I'm running a business, and for example, I have a certain workflow, which is a baseline for me working at a 75% accuracy, do I see AI working at the same comparable level? Then what exactly is the reason I still want to go with AI that's going to give me 75% probabilistic accuracy? And here I'm having 75% deterministic way of approaching the solution, right? So
Mm.
understanding the percentage improvement is important, which a CIO can do, right? Many opportunities, picking the right opportunities, and what you're not picking, giving a cost to that. So
Yeah.
it's an opportunity cost, right? If I'm doing 5 out of 10 things, and the other 5 things that I'm leaving out is the cost I'm paying for picking the first 5 things, right? So that
Mm.
kind of mindset is very much important that an AI executive can do. And the second thing that's very important is that person understands the iterative nature of AI, because it's probabilistic. It goes into the market, you get the feedback, you put it into your system, the whole workflows repeats again. And then you have to do the same exercise over and over again, because no AI model is built once and is left on its own. It cannot run on its own, right? You have to keep tuning it and monitoring it and all, which is a big exercise. So chief AI officer comes with that kind of mindset that I know AI is not a one-time activity. It's a continuous journey, right? I need to stay continuously updated about the industry and see the best, efficient, and effective way of putting AI models into the market, right? If it needs to be about vector databases, I need to be aware about that and have a team in parallel who is continuously experimenting on it and tell me whether it's worth for me as a business to invest in vector database or not. Who would do that?
Mm.
Everybody's just into an execution mode. Who would take a bigger picture view and understand that? That's where you have a CIO. And I have talked about having the team who can do it for you. But then what about your peer executives, the executive buy-in? You don't get that, right? You have people who
Mm.
think AI is magic, and you have people who think AI is sham. But then for the
Mm.
real cases where AI is a good use, how would you prove value to them, right? You need to communicate it. And initially it's all about estimates. But those estimates are guided in a manner that comes with the bank of knowledge that a chief AI officer comes equipped with, because that person has seen a lot of success and failures of AI, so it knows what is the risk that I'm assuming when I take a certain AI initiative. And that you need to communicate. So communication again is an important thing. And all of those things that I'm talking till now, add one to that, which is AI governance and ethics, right? Having that ethical mindset right at the beginning of when you're picking up an AI initiatives is important. And that should be your, deciding or, deal breaker criteria for picking up an AI initiative, right? Because you don't want to harm the society. The point that I was making, I'm using AI to solve a certain problem, not to introduce it
Mm.
problems that come with AI, right? So I used AI to do something and it introduced bias. It ended up hurting certain marginalized section of the society. I'm hurting somebody in the society. Technology is supposed to elevate humans' life. And now I'm introducing problems. So I'm to be blamed for because I don't know the right technology use. So if that happens, that I need to be aware of that. And I, as a CIO, can do that, right? So all those things that
Yeah.
I've mentioned till now, and these things I've been working, CIO is just a name that's been given on top of it. So when a couple of years ago, people used to ask me how you are able to do so many things associated with an AI life cycle, I'm so pleased to say that all of this now has a name.
Yeah, and I think there'll be chief AI officers out there at the moment that are doing this role, but not in job title.
One of the view
Mm.
that I have is I'm not a person who goes just by the designation, which means that today you can really very well have a VP of AI, a director of AI, a head of AI who is doing the same thing, right?
Mm.
Or uh, title, then it's not something that's a deal breaker here, because you need just one executive who knows AI to the level that they can drive AI implementations teams and then tell and communicate the value of it, whichever title that is able to do that. Now, the other side of it is because when you're talking about the kind of authority that comes with this role, right? You are
Mm.
talking about executive buy-in. You need to have your peer executives who are on board in this journey with you. And you have to weave AI into the culture of the organization, the fabric of the organization. Then it becomes important when you're talking about the C-suite executive level kind of discussions. Then I think giving a title to it is not something that's hurting. So even if the work is getting done, then the title that gets introduced into the boardroom, I think that makes it like all worth it. So it's like still having those two views. Even if the title does not matter, you're still able to do those things that are expected out of you, and you have your CDOs and CTOs into the room. Then introducing a CAIO is kind of justifying that, also tells that the company has a very strong focus on AI. That
Mm.
makes you feel the visionary aspect that I was telling about, right? So that tells that you are very aware about putting your brand into the market, saying that I have a dedicated AI executive who's going to look about all things AI in my company.
Yeah, so basically, organizations with a chief AI officer are more likely to be one ethical because they've more resource to look at the problems and
Yeah.
um, yeah, okay, makes sense. And that segues onto the last part, kind of where you see the market going and future predictions. What does governance look like over the next year and even further past that, if we dare look that far over the next 3 years? What is the short and long term view on governance?
Yeah, I think a lot of what I used to initially call, and I think we also touched briefly on this, is that is it going to be case by case basis? And that's where, a case by case becomes too nuanced level, and keeping it very high level umbrella blanket term for everything under governance becomes very high level. So there is a good balance which comes with categorization, which is what EU AI Act has done, is that high risk, limited, and something which is, not at all acceptable risk, right? So, or the residual one. So that's how I see that, you kind of map all those cases into certain categories and kind of say that the rules are more stringent when there is a, high degree of impact on human lives and their fundamental rights, right? So that's how we should be approaching AI. And I kind of am totally compliant, and I totally agree with the way, EU Act has kind of done the risk grading, which is very important because it's a spectrum. If you see, right, risk is not something either it is there or not, it's a whole spectrum. And you can't what do you call it, as hamper the innovation. That's what people say, that innovation gets hampered if you're putting too much of governance on it. However, you cannot unleash, or can't just let it be on its own. So that's where this
Hmm.
grading is important, and I see this picking up really well. One thing that is also on radar these days is that there was a case where a lawyer didn't know that ChatGPT gave a fabricated story, right? You must be aware of.
Hmm.
So these things, when you are dealing with any AI system, and that's also very well relevant in deep fakes, right? You don't know what you're dealing with. What is human, what is real, what is fake, and what is AI generated. So calling everything that's AI generated and giving a disclaimer and below this is important, because the end user who might be innocent and doesn't know what they are getting into, they can take a very judicious, well-educated call whether they want to act on that information or not. So, creating more awareness is important. At a society level, that's the next thing. And the third thing that I think will pick up is on the explainability. That everything is good. AI looks fancy, and I think it's gotten fancier with Chat GPT and everything around, right? The whole generative AI era. But then, how do I know and how do I trust it? This still remains an issue, and people ask me that. How do I trust the outcome that's coming out of it? I don't know. I have confidence, and if it is giving some solution, if I have to still take it with a very, I need to be very I scrutinize it, right? Then how a lot of time kind of goes into that. So I need to be very, I should be able to trust it. So explainability is third aspect of it, and the fourth I see is that. Data related issues still remain, right? Data privacy,
Hmm.
data security, those breach, if they happen, right? And the one that we are seeing these days is on the copyright infringement, which I've seen a couple of companies have done that kind of contracts with the places they've gotten the data from. That Okay, the places they have gotten the data from, that there's a contract between them. So those issues are being handled as of now, but I see that more of those things are going to come in near future, and this needs more alignment. So 4 to 5 such of these things are going to be key focus for the companies in next couple of years, and it's going to
Yeah.
be. But I think the more number of cases we see, right, we kind of start having our view around that, and then make governance
Hmm.
aspect of it. Giving enough disclosures is one way to do that, right? So it's going to be smoother going forward.
Yeah, I think All great points. Final question from me. You touched on kind of trust and explainability. From an accountability point of view, how accountable should you touched on legal use case there, and Air Canada had their chatbot issue refunds. I know that's quite a light-hearted example, but if something seriously went wrong, for example, how accountable should organizations be for the AI that is in production?
Okay, so I have done a lot of sessions or workshops where I create awareness and sensitize everyone in the organization, telling about the good, bad, and ugly side of AI, which means by the very nature of it, anybody, right from the developer level to the executive level, and I'll tell you the reason for both. At the developer level, they need to be sensitized so they kind of have an ethical mindset in terms of how to embed ethics into the whole AI workflow by design, which means while collecting the data, they can see, is it really representative of the entire population on which I'll implement AI, or the AI will actually keep giving the predictions on, right? Right from that mindset to the time when the predictions actually come out, or the idea itself is flawed. Idea itself is not considering a certain section of society, then you really have a problem. So at an executive level, you need to pick the right problems, right? It's the problem that you're needing to solve with AI, because AI can introduce its layer of complexity on top of it. So it's a top down and bottom up both approach. It's a hybrid approach that everybody needs to be aware and educated about it. That's how you handle it. And at an employee level, so accountability is, you can't say that, oh, I was given this project to work on and I've worked and I don't know where it's been put to use. You can't get away with that. So it's accountability that kind of comes from within when you're aware of it. But the onus of making everyone aware still lies with the organization. I would say that you need to make sure your employees are aware, and then have certain standardization metric around that. If they see certain thing, what do they do next? You have an escalation matrix where they can go and say that we need extra pair of eyes to vet the solution. So these are the processes that are coming under governance, and that lies with the organization. So it's a multi-layer. It's not very easy, even if I'm making it very easy and those things,
Yeah,
right? Multi-layer thing.
yeah, I appreciate multifaceted. A lot of people think the same, by the way, that if you're going to monetize a product, you need to be held ultimately accountable for it. So that's everything. Thank you for so much for coming on and sharing your story and some use cases and the governance frameworks. If anyone has a governance question, are you happy for them to reach out to you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. LinkedIn is a place I'm available most of the time. So LinkedIn is where I answer all the questions.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Vidhi, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me, Chris.